Hi, everyone. This is Claire Parsons, the founder of The Brilliant Legal Mind and author of How to Be a Badass Lawyer. And I am here today with my friend, Monica, who actually went through a book coaching program with me last year, which for any lawyers watching this is a little bit like 1L year of law school, except our coach was, I think, a lot nicer than a lot of law professors are. But Monica has actually published her book shortly after I published mine, and I have it here. It's called The Cost of Clutter, and it's about learning how to get a little bit more organized in your house, in your life, in your work. And so I wanted to have Monica here to talk about her book and herself. I want to introduce Monica first before I get some questions for her, but Monica Jenkins is a speaker and best-selling author of The Cost of Clutter, a billion-dollar wisdom for culture, communities, and companies. She helps executive leaders and professionals have more peace of mind, clarity, and direction at work and at home. Monica has trained leadership teams in global corporations, faith-based organizations, and diverse communities. She draws on personal experiences with racism, being let go from a job, and as an overwhelmed mother and wife in her book. And she offers a step-by-step guide to personal and professional transformation that begins with cleaning out your closet. So I'm sure a lot of us here today can definitely benefit from that. So Monica, do you want to tell me a little bit more about yourself that your bio doesn't cover?
Sure. Thank you for having me too. Well, one of the things it probably doesn't say is that I am a Jesus freak. Yes, I am. Yes, I'm a wife. I have an amazing husband. I'm a mother of two beautiful children. And something that I find interesting about my life is I was born in Detroit, Michigan. I grew up on an island in 4 states. I attended probably 7 different schools before I graduated high school. I do have a bachelor's degree from the University of Connecticut. Go Huskies! And as far as my work career, it spans from banking, higher education, social services, and lastly, before I went out on my own to do all this work, legal. I worked in a corporate legal department. So with something else I would add too is that I'm an author, as you just said, which is huge for me now. I'm an author. I am also a coach, and I kind of define my coaching as clutter to clarity lifestyle coaching. And so we could talk about that a little more as we dive into some of the questions, but that's kind of my coaching model. And I'm also the managing partner of our family-owned business called CMON Enterprises, and that's CMON Enterprises LLC. And the book is one of our first babies born from that business. And my coaching services are aligned with that as well.
And I thought at some point, Monica, that there was some interest in adding on a JD to that long list of accomplishments and maybe going to law school.
Yes, yes, you are definitely accurate in that. And I still plan to make that happen for myself. But I've found with the book and everything that's come from the book, the business, and just having opportunities to kind of share more about it in my coaching, that I feel like I'm kind of trying to balance what that start will look like. So yes, I am studying for LSATs. I am looking to possibly apply for 2024. And so that's still on the table, because I'm very passionate about some things that really kind of still everything I think I do aligns with our book. And so something that I'm passionate about that my law career could hopefully support is housing matters and an advocacy standpoint, and also from a federal kind of standpoint, federal fair housing law and things of that nature. So yeah, you got me on that one. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I understand the importance of picking your projects and having to take your time when you're managing a lot of things. Definitely get that myself, and I can say from my law practice that some of the housing issues from an advocacy standpoint for individuals, and I work with some local government entities that have dealt with that as well, and it's just really important because there's so much need right now. Affordable housing is such an issue, so I wish you well in that.
Thank you.
I do want to talk about the book though, and I kind of want to start out with, this blog, my blog is really about lawyer mental health and mindfulness and well-being. And so, I can definitely see how clutter, and having read your book, I can see how that ties in with it, but I think you'll explain it better. So can you bridge the gap for people about what clutter has to do with mental health?
I absolutely can. Thank you for asking that question. So, one of the things I would start with is what comes to mind when you hear the word clutter. And so, through my research and talking with in conversations, so research and conversations, a lot of people are overwhelmed, they're stressed, and they just feel stuck when it comes to clutter. But the way in which we define it is often very different. So, and it's always in terms of a physical space. Like, oh, my closet is messy. My closet is unorganized. My shoes, everything is unorganized. Or a particular space that we utilize in our home. It's messy, it's junky, didn't have time for that. And so, how I think the two align is that people are finding out, and definitely I found out, that mental clutter aligns with your physical spaces. So, you can be, your spaces, in other words, we see the space, right? We see the space and we see that there's stuff all around, but what's going on in our minds? Our lives are full, and I talk about this a little bit in the book about busyness. Lawyers in particular, just because I've had the opportunity to work with some high profile attorneys and see how they function throughout the day. And also, just as I explored the profession myself, and having worked also in a law school, I have been able to see kind of firsthand the type of, I don't like to use the word busyness, but their full lives. What's the focus that's required, having a certain mental capacity to do a lot of reading and writing. And so what I would say is that clutter is really about, like, one of the first things is how we use our time. And it starts with time, like what's going on in our lives. How are we valuing our time? So I would start with that.
So you mentioned that you had worked with lawyers, and you mentioned that you have in the past even worked with lawyers in your actual work. So you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but if you can dig into it a little bit more, what makes it so hard for lawyers? What makes clutter such a hard thing for lawyers in particular? Like, what gets in the way? And no pun intended with that question, but what's our big issue? Maybe extending from the idea of lack of time.
Yeah, lack of time is definitely a big one. But also I'll use a case study to kind of give an example of a woman who was a lawyer who battled cancer, and she survived and reached out to me and was getting her life back. But it starts at our home. So your lawyers maybe second, maybe third, because if you're a mother or a father or a wife or a husband, those kind of things do matter in how we show up every day. And so, in talking with this woman and going on a journey with her to try to claim her house back so that she can then begin to get back to work. Her model was going to be that she was going to be working from home, as she just, was starting out, and she worked in a major city, so she's working from home. But also, it didn't really start with the workspace. It started with, like, her personal space. What's the priority? What was the priority? I had to ask her as we walked around her home, and I saw that it was a home that was lived in, that really represented she was ill. It became her hospital almost. So I think that recognizing that although you have such a humongous responsibility that we need and appreciate, we also, at the end of the day, are human beings who get colds, who get sick, who have life things that happen, who get fired. Well, that was mine. I'll take that. And some other things, that happen in our lives, that sometimes one part of our life overtakes another, and we don't have time for the other. And I would say that not only for lawyers, the time issue, because one of the biggest, straightening up a certain room, but at the end of the day, that room's going to turn right back to that after the weekend's over. So my book is also about lifestyle. So this is about lifestyle. So you as a lawyer are creating a lifestyle of mindfulness. And so it's not going to just be for the summer when you're on vacation or on your breaks. It's supposed to be meant for your lifestyle. And that is exactly what the Cost of Clutter is about. That's exactly what Clutter to Clarity coaching, life coaching is about creating a lifestyle that you live with less clutter so that you're able to have some direction and have a little peace of mind.
So Monica, I kind of had, I think you already answered, my next question was going to be, why is it worth it? And I think you've already spoken to that a little bit, but I wonder about like the initial difficulties of deciding to invest the time or maybe even the resources to have someone come and help you. And I kind of have a personal story with this. We this summer I started getting some of my backyard area a little bit more cleared out and getting some new things in. We don't have any shade in the back, and I really love like swings and rocking chairs, so I kind of did that this summer. But the first thing I had to do was get rid of an old hot tub that hasn't been working for years and has just been sitting there, and like I actually had to hire someone to come in and get it because it was so heavy and big. And it took me forever to do that. And finally, the thing that ultimately got me there was when I started to imagine what I was going to do with that space if the hot tub was gone. But I had to like go through this years long process, you know, of doing that. And it was kind of honestly a little silly. So like how does someone like you come in and help someone, you know, get past that initial block so they don't waste years, you know, with a dingy space or, you know, having too much stuff around that gets in the way of living their lives?
Well, I think we start small. I think there have been people that I've met with, examples, some case studies actually even in the book, of people that I've met with who are overwhelmed with that place that they saw like you, like, oh, I'm going to use this for this or that. And one of the things that I said was what you said. What do you imagine for that to be? And that's one of, I think, yeah, it's one of, well, it's tied to one of the steps in the book. But what do you imagine that to be? You know, like someone who's overwhelmed, like what are you thinking? Putting it on paper, what are you thinking about what you want? What's the priority for that space? And so this one particular client that I had that I like to call a 911 call or 911 text or DM was that, okay, you're in this space right now and you're like, what is it supposed to be? All right. So you're not going to do that today, right? But we're going to decide like what's going to be the timeline for this. Like I would like it done in like 90 days. Okay. So then we need to map out what 90 days will look like. And, you know, oftentimes people want to just start going with the stuff. And I always say, don't go with the stuff. Just sit with the facts. Like I know myself, I'll use myself in this case. I have a basement that's still some areas that I need to tackle. And it has been actually a 2-year project. Okay. Because we've set it, you know, there's people, we're empty nesters now. We have adult children moved out. So it's a 2-year project. Why? Because in talking to my husband, who would be the client, or in talking to this other person who was on the other phone, I'm like, you have to determine that space that you want is specifically for you, but you have all this stuff in the basement that belongs to 3 other people or 4 other people. Your adult kids that moved out, like similar to me, that was the case. Adult kids that moved out and left things behind. So it's like pause the brakes first, and then we start small. We write out what we want that area, space to look like, and then we go from there. We have to have a conversation about journey because oftentimes when we start getting rid of things and letting go, it brings up a lot, and that stops the project because we haven't thought about it. Most people, well, I would say most people know what's in spaces that they need to reimagine or organize. So there's that thought of like, okay, well, Johnny and Susan's stuff is here. And we had a conversation about this particular call. I said, well, when are you going to let Johnny and Susie come and get their things? Or if it's their lives are busy, then create a zone for Johnny and Susan's things so you don't go so, you know, crazy about it. So yeah, it's always about starting small. It's always about like, you know, for me, writing things down, you know, taking those things out. And I've actually tacked them onto spaces in the house, like, because I need to remind myself that this is something that we're not going to let go another year. And metaphorically and like for real. So yeah, I think that's kind of important. Starting small, and I always breathe, inhale, exhale, because anytime we're going to tackle something that we know that is going to just take you into stress, I know I've been through that. That's why I say that. So it's like inhale, exhale, breathe. Let's do an exercise of that 3 times before I tackle it and after I finish it, because then anxiousness comes when you see how inspired you are to kind of do this. And then you get anxious and you want to do everything all quick and fast. And that's not always the way. Slow and steady, I believe, wins the race in this process. But it's also how much time someone has. And so that's part of kind of like my assessment process when I talk to people. It's like kind of getting an idea of what's your priority, how much time do you want to do this? And asking for help is the first part. So I say that in the book a lot. Ask for help. If you can't do everything, ask for help if you need help.
So I agree with a whole lot of that, and I of course love that you're using breathing to help.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the things that I often do when I present on mindfulness and compassion and whatever for lawyers is I kind of know that probably most of the audience is not going to go start a meditation practice just because they heard me speak. So what I try to do is have this kind of blend of here's how you can meditate. And by the way, here's also these few little practices that maybe these micro practices that you can sort of bring into your day. Maybe test what I'm trying to tell you and you can experience it yourself, but maybe not. It just helps you and it's just a little thing. So when it comes to clutter, Monica, maybe there's some people out there who aren't ready to go clean out their basement or read your book or whatever. Can you give me a few practices or little things that people can do to help manage their clutter where maybe they can try them out for themselves and say, hey, that Monica is really smart, maybe I should go buy her book. Can you give me some of those kind of things?
Sure. I like how you said micro. So I would say micro organizing, and I'll go back to starting small. So it might just mean looking in your purse, your backpack, or your bag, that thing that you carry with you every day. Or it might mean looking in well, I'll say multi-purpose drawer, formerly known as the junk drawer. Okay. And that's in the book. I tell a little story about that. And so I would start there. When I got fired from a job many years ago, I thought the world was going to end. I never knew anyone who had gotten fired before. It was like something that I felt like that was very taboo. I felt shame. I felt um, shame is big enough. And so as I began to kind of create this work that I am now presenting to folks now through the book, I started with my purse. I was depressed. I was not doing the inhale, exhale, breathe thing. I am a person of faith, but I felt like it had failed me. And so I'm just like, and studies show you start with just something and it's gonna do something to you. Those little endorphins, things are gonna happen mentally for you. So I say start with something like a drawer or a purse, something that a purse is something for me and for others who carry backpacks or whatever you carry daily, that was something that was very intentional for me. So I started to look at my bag and I said, what's the vision for the bag? Because that's part of my part of my method. What's the vision for the bag? So I then began to declutter my bag, and now I carry only certain things in my bag. A habit that now I've created a habit. Every week, I will look at my bag on a Sunday night or early Monday morning and make sure I have what I need to start the week. And that's going to look different for everybody. So there's certain things that I need to have in my purse or my work bag. I like to call a tote bag that I need. That's very simple. And what ends up happening from there is you start moving to other things. So then I went to a junk drawer and we had multiple, I'll call them, multi-purpose drawers. We had several of those, but I went to one of them and I said, okay, what do I want this to be? Based on its location, I put certain things in it so that I knew that they would be there. So that is one way that we can start. We have to create, I believe, some little habits. Another thing I would say is, again, it's going to go back to time. And I talk about this in the book and I talk about value a lot. So how are you valuing your time? Like, what are you doing when you get up in the morning? And is it serving you for when you get to work? Or what are you doing at work when you get there? And is it really serving you? And so I think that that's very important. We create these little micro habits that then kind of start to make us start to look at other things. So I'll give those to you, and then the rest is in the book.
All right, Monica. So my last question is just where can people find you and this wonderful book?
The book is on Amazon currently. I know it's dropped there. Hopefully, it'll be in the other spaces online, but right now it's definitely on Amazon. I mean, if people have questions, want to reach out, the Cost of Clutter. My email address is clutterdeclarity 2022gmail.com. We are currently getting ready to release the website very soon, and it's going to have all of the fun things that we are doing. And so if you reach out to me an email and you want to know when all that happens, then you'll be in the know. That's our campaign, be in the know. Kind of, do you know the cost of clutter? So that's people who have bought the book know the cost, and the hashtag is do you know the cost of clutter? So that means you might need to get the book. So yeah, so I'm hoping that the website will be a blessing to people. That'll be coming out very soon. That's the costofclutter.com. So it is currently under construction right now, but you can certainly go on there, and I believe there's a link for you to order the book. And I'm also, excuse me, all things social media. Facebook, I have a group, and I am also on Instagram. So my handle on Instagram is at the cost of clutter. And yeah, and I'm also on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn, and I'm going to feel bad because I'm not going to know how to tell you how to find me on LinkedIn, but I'm there under Monica Jenkins. And maybe Claire, you can help me with that since where we both
You can
are.
totally make a custom link if you haven't, but
Okay.
we can talk about that later. But yes, you can find her at Monica Jenkins. And I will be doing a blog post and tagging Monica there if you want to find us that way as well. So I will also just kind of show you the book one last time and let everyone know that August is Black Business Owners Month. So if you want to support Monica's book, it's a great time to do it. So please help her out and get the wisdom from her book that probably all of us need. So Monica, I appreciate you being here.
I'm
Any
just holding
parting
up.
words?
Yeah, I'm just holding up my book too, because mine's a little different than hers because I have the bestseller tag on it, but that's okay.
Oh,
The one that that's all right. That's all right. So the ones that people that will order, that's the one that'll come to you with the tag on it. So that was pretty exciting. I guess I would say about decluttering your life that it's one step at a time. It's lifestyle change, and all you need is a little faith, a lot of courage, and really the motivation to clean out your closet. And that's just not your physical closet, but it's metaphorically, because your closet, the clothes and the things that you keep in your closet help you show up at day to day. But the metaphorical closet is what's going on in your professional and personal life. And I think that's very important to tie the two together so that you can live with less clutter, get direction, and have more peace.
all right, that is my goal too. So thank you, Monica, and I hope everything goes well with the book and all your new ventures.
Thank you so much for having me again, Claire. Bye, everyone.